All right, we're wrapping up the ice canopy over the Earth that created such great conditions, longevity, huge men and women and animals and plant life, and wonderful temperatures, protection from ultraviolet radiation. Let's look at K13.htm. We continue in that file. We're going to look for NASA had discovered relative to this firmament of compressed hydrogen held in place by a layer top and bottom of crystalline water which would keep the temperature at a consistent level. NASA had discovered relative to this in the examination of superconductive materials that when held near a magnet, the lines of force generated in the free flow of electromagnetic energy hold the materials in place, either above it or below it. So you ask, well, how could that be possible 11 miles up, a crystalline, super cold water canopy that creates such a great condition for the original Earth? Well, there's NASA's discovery. In other words, researchers have not been able to find a mechanism for holding up a water canopy unless that water canopy has exactly the biblical record which clearly describes a superconductive solid metallic base. Hydrogen would be such a base. Under these circumstances, and with a free flow of electrons, it would support itself above the dipole magnet of the Earth. All the laws of physics known in current research show that this would simply support itself above the Earth, and it would be held there until warmer temperatures would moderate its enclosure. Before the flood, Earth's inhabitants never saw total darkness. Researchers indicated that the temperature would have been about 78 degrees Fahrenheit during the day. Imagine a superior man with a perfect environment, perfect food with complete nutrients, no harmful radiation from space, and disease microbes held in check. The pre-flood world was, in our understanding today, paradise. During the pre-flood Earth, there was no rain. We have Genesis 2, 4-7. This is the account of the heavens and the earth when they were created, when the Lord God made the earth and the heavens, and no scrub of the field had yet appeared on the earth, and no plant of the field had yet sprung up. For the Lord God had not sent rain on the earth, and there was no man to work the ground. But mist came up from the earth and watered the whole surface of the ground. No rainfall before the flood. No rainfall. This fact is specifically alleged in Genesis 2, 5, and 6. Jehovah God had not caused it to rain upon the earth, and there was not a man to till the ground, but there went up a mist from the earth and watered from the whole face of the ground. That's from Dr. Paul. So this verse is applied specifically to the initial completed creation, but there was no mention made of any change in this meteorological phenomena after the fall. So it continued until the day of the deluge. This inference is supported also by the fact that the rainbow is mentioned as a sign from God to man after the flood, implying that strongly that rain as we know it and the subsequent rainbow were experienced for the first time then. Genesis 9:11-17. The process of evaporation from land and water surfaces apparently is implied in the mist going up from the earth. However, with atmospheric turbulence largely absent, the large movements of air masses in their contained water vapor, such as characterized present climates, were prevented. Also, the lapse rate, the vertical decrease of temperature with elevation above the ground surface, was probably small due to the effect of the canopy, so that vapor would tend to recondense and participate as a light mist soon after its evaporation. But that really kept it watered. Since the deposition of sediments is conditioned upon their precedent erosion by water or wind, and since these elements evidently acted in a uniformly gentle manner, it follows that there could have been very little geological work accomplished during this period. Now we have a future restoration of the canopy that Dr. Baugh projects. Isaiah 35, he says, corresponds to other chapters in Isaiah which tell of a coming millennium when the lion and the lamb will lie down together. You have it down here. They will neither harm nor destroy. The earth will be full of the knowledge of the Lord, and the waters as the waters cover the sea. It will be a time, according to Isaiah, that a child with a gentle genetic deficiency will still live to be 100 years old, yet an old man will fully live out his days. This prophecy foretells a time in the future when man will again have the ability to live for hundreds of years. Never again will there be an infant who lives for but a few days, or an old man who does not live out his years. He who dies at 100 will be thought a mere youth. He who fails to reach 100 will be considered accursed. Okay. Isaiah 35:1. The wilderness and solitary place shall be glad for them. Desert shall rejoice, blossom as the rose. The earth will return to an ecospherical condition as existed before the flood. The only environmental factor that could account for such a return to a world like the antediluvian world would be a literal reestablishment of this firmament that we've been discussing. Dr. Boss says it's literally possible that the wilderness will actually rejoice and sing. My answer is an emphatic yes. Talks about the wilderness bursting out in song. Preceding chapters, conditions on the earth before the flood were described with the crystalline canopy and the long wave radio energy from the stars, and how the radio energy would have been transferred to the silica. Man was serenaded each morning by the sand under his feet. Sand actually has the ability to sing when energized, and this fact has been verified by numerous scientific studies. In addition, the atmosphere would be charged with vibrations and resonate within the cellular structure of the plants. Actually, before the flood, the wilderness would sing as the Bible affirms, up in that passage we just looked at, and the botanical life forms would pick up the music vibrations. As the text of Isaiah 35 declares, even war-torn Lebanon would be a place of joy in those days, and the song of glory of the Lord will be sung even by the roses from Beirut to Mount Carmel and to Sharon. Scientists have discovered that under certain circumstances, in some of the sands it resonated, there are actual discernible musical notes and harmony in the atmosphere. Say to them that are of a fearful heart, be strong, fear not. Behold, your God will come with a vengeance, even God with a recompense. He will come and save you. Isaiah 35:4. The indication in this verse is that God will build a context which will be beneficial to man. Man is now in full deterioration. While in the 20th century, science has made a thorough investigation into the functions of life, the environmental dangers causing such diseases as cancer are increasing and encompassing us at a very alarming and negative rate. The more technology we get, the more destruction we experience until Christ comes again. Look at these verses. The inference in these verses is very strong here that the natural circumstances of the ecology will be changed and revert back to conditions strikingly similar to pre-flood days. Man will respond physiologically, and there will seemingly be genetic corrections or repairs. Advanced studies suggest that if a biological organism is permitted to live within that context, whereby it is resupplied with energy without contamination, it has the ability to repair itself to a great degree. Of course, this life-encompassing context includes energizing daily with the right spectra of light and the correct levels of pressure, oxygen, nitrogen, and carbon dioxide, as it was originally designed to have. Dr. Robert Gange relates that certain laboratory studies show that there is an ability within the DNA to actually strip out inharmonious properties and to some degree repair the DNA. If that be the case, it would certainly be plausible within a given ecological context where life organisms are within their designed environment for the body to have the ability to repair itself. The blind would be able to see, the deaf would be able to hear, the lame would be able to walk. Programmed within a man's body are the genes composing the entire genetic structure for shapes, sizes, and functions of all organs. Thus, if man's body would be permitted to repair itself, the errant genetic flaws would be corrected and brought back into balance. The design context for man's optimal benefit was the pre-flood environment under the firmament. A natural corollary for man's genetic expressions involves the restoration of the canopy for the millennium. So Dr. Barnes and others have found that every 1,400 years, the Earth's magnetic field is losing one-half of its energy. Before the flood, the magnetic field would have been at utopian context, where it would have held water, vapor, and additional substances within its power. If there is to be a replacement of the canopy in the future, a prerequisite is the restoration of the energy in the magnetic field in order for water to be held in place. Assuming that the Bible indicates the original firmament above the heaven will be restored, there will first have to be the restoration of the energy and power of the magnetic field. 1 Corinthians 15:51-52, the Apostle Paul made an illuminating statement. Behold, I show you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye. That last phrase, the words used in the Greek, gives a clear meaning. The word used in the Greek for twinkling is ripto. And one of the language meanings of this word is flashing or rush of light. Rush or light. Use of this word could also include in contemporary language a nuclear flashing or atomic event. So when Jesus releases resurrection power at his coming to rapture the church, it is entirely possible that the Earth's magnetic field will be recharged. Therefore, after the rapture, as the tribulation period begins, the Earth's magnetic field is recharged and the environment begins to change in anticipation of his bringing in the millennium. Beginning with the 6th chapter of Revelation, we find such statements as the vials of the wrath of God being poured out upon the earth. Each of these judgments would also have a recharging of the atmospheric context. In Revelation 16, the account of an earthquake is given such as the world has never seen at this time. Every mountain will be gone, possibly leveled, and every island will disappear. Before the worldwide flood, the topography of the earth had gentle, sloping elevations. The mountains were created at the onset of the flood, when the mountains of the deep were broken up, producing great upheavals. Also, the landmass of earth was not divided into islands. The earth was not divided until the days of Peleg, Genesis 10:25. So once again, after the tribulation, the earth will be one great connecting ocean and one large connecting continent. When the magnetic field around the earth is supercharged once more, water will be thrown up into the atmosphere by earthquakes and accompanying volcanic action much higher than 50,000 feet. It will be held up by the increasing strength of the magnetic field until frozen into place as a continuous sphere of ice. Now, Revelation 16:21 speaks of hailstones weighing up to 100 pounds, each falling upon men all over around the world. Thrown up with the water above the earth will be billions of tons of dust particles. But all such materials will combine with water as hailstones, so that nothing will be left in the higher atmosphere but pure water. The electromagnetic charges of dust particles combined with normally would cause hailstones. But the hailstones that will fall during the Great Tribulation will be larger than any the world has ever experienced before. This gives us an indication of the awesome power when the Earth's electromagnetic field is restored at that time. The pure water left in the upper atmosphere will need to be crystallized to provide the benefits described in the 35th chapter of Isaiah. I believe that Jesus Christ will take care of this also when he returns at the end of the tribulation in power and great glory. The entire earth, including the firmament and the environment, will be completely energized by his presence. He's the one, after all, that holds all things together. Genesis 1:15. The hydrogen elements necessary for the canopy will again be bound together, and there will be a raqiya to complete the restoration of the earth to its pre-flood condition. So, Dr. Ball says, the description of the restored earth found in Isaiah 35 shows us that the forest will again sing. And around an individual before the flood in this canopy context, the radio waves from the stars were enhanced by this canopy of the morning hours. The crystalline structure of the sand would pick up and amplify these radio waves. Finally, there are qualities in the cellular structure of plants that would cause the reeds to vibrate, so the forest began to sing. Anyone who knew this creator would not help but respond. Only now have we been able to put together this orchestral creation model, balancing out all these elements in an articulated form. The biblical records explain reality far better than the evolutionary concept does.